Hello and welcome everyone to the ANZ Global Webinar Training Series. My name is Louise Clayton and I'm the Head of Data Science in Wholesale Digital at ANZ. Today, I have the pleasure of welcoming you to our sixth and final session in the series, which will focus on the Data Insights menu in ANZ Transactive Global. Before we kick off, I would like to acknowledge that I am joining you from the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and also acknowledge the traditional owners of the various lands on which all of you are joining from today. I pay my respect to the elders past, present and emerging, and to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples joining us today. As I mentioned, this is the sixth instalment in our current Transactive Global training series, which is designed to provide you, our clients, with the resources to enable you to unlock the full potential that ANZ Transactive Global has to offer across its full suite of features. This includes payments, reporting, loans, trade finance, commercial credit cards, FX, and today's topic, data insights, which we've brought together in a true omni-channel experience. Today, my colleague Shivang will take us through Economic Pulse, which provides you with direct access to consumer spending information within ANZ Transactive Global. If you have any queries as we go, please feel free to pop them in the chat function and we'll respond to them throughout the session. Post the session, we'll also provide access to a recording of this session, a copy of the Q&A, and also a link to any additional resources for future reference and for sharing with your colleagues. Without any further ado, I'll hand over to Shivang to get us started.
Thanks for that, Louise. Hi, everyone. I'm Shivang. I work with Louise and a team of data scientists and engineers, and together we focus on using the wealth of ANZ's data to provide our customers with actionable insights through scalable solutions. And in today's webinar, I'll be walking you through one of those solutions, Economic Pulse. As Louise mentioned, this is the app which allows users to see spending trends in different industries and regions and really understand consumer behavior. Economic Pulse is now available on Transactive Global to AU customers. That means your delegated admins can provision access to this app by just granting access to the Strategic Insights role. The good thing is you don't need to have access to any payments or accounts to do this. This has been quite helpful for us because based on feedback we've gotten from customers, this information is useful for treasury and finance teams, but we've also seen it being useful for other parts of the organization, like your strategy teams, marketing teams, and even your own data teams. So using this role-based access control mechanism, delegated admins can now grant access only to this app. So you can still abide by the principle of least privilege. So in today's demo, I'll give you a quick overview of what data powers this app. What can users see? What can you do with the app? We'll be using live data for it. So as I go, I'll call out a few interesting things I see in the data and how it's been useful for customers in the past. So I'll just start sharing my screen here. Now, before I jump into the app itself, I want to quickly just talk about what data powers the app. Under the hood, Economic Pulse uses cards issuing and merchant acquiring data. What that means is every time an ANZ retail customer uses their credit card or debit card, or a non-ANZ customer uses their card on an ANZ Worldline merchant terminal, both those instances come up as records in our data set. We then aggregate all that information together, anonymize it, de-identify the data, and start getting interesting insights of what's going on in different industries and regions. To give you a sense of scale, that's about 140 million transactions processed every week. Now, we also have a robust governance framework which is embedded into our systems so that if we ever identify that there's a high risk of being able to re-identify a merchant or a customer, we automatically mask that data so that we're abiding by our strong principles of ethics and privacy. With spend data and insights generated from spend data, we believe that the power really comes from how fresh the data is. And that's why we update the data every day. It usually has a lag of just about 2 to 3 days. So when I demo the app right now, it'll have a lag of 3 days, and within an hour and a half or so, it should update to just a lag of 2 days. So let's jump into the app. Let's go to full screen content here. Now, when you first log into the app, this is what you see. You start off by seeing a summary of what's happened in the last week of data that we've got available. You see a few selectors over here. So Economic Pulse shows year-on-year comparison because that helps us track longer running trends as well as a few emerging ones. You can tweak which year you want to use as your baseline year with this selector. You can compare this year's data with any data from 2019 onwards. So when you log in, you see a few charts related to National Pulse or the National Spend Momentum, some state-related charts, as well as a chart related to e-commerce and in-store trend. I'll cover all of these in a second. If some of these charts aren't relevant for you, or if there's other charts which are more relevant and you'd want them right up front and center, you can actually tweak your view by clicking on this icon here. Once you're in this edit mode, you can use this handle to drag it and resize any widget. You can also add more widgets by clicking the plus icon here. I've got them all available for this. And once you click save, it will actually remember your preferences across all your devices. So let's continue with the default view for now. The first chart you see is National Pulse. What this is looking at is the overall spend momentum across the nation. So here, the dark blue line is this year's data. The light blue line is the comparison year we've chosen, and the bars represent the year-on-year change. So you'd notice that there's a few peaks here. So there's one peak in the week that's leading up to Christmas, and another peak towards the end of November. Now, this peak actually coincides with Black Friday sales. So we've started seeing how spending actually went up in the week leading up to those sales. Now, a quick tip while I'm on this chart. Often, if you see a chart on the app which has multiple series, sometimes we just want to focus on one of them. So to assist in that, we've added this functionality where if you just click on one of the legend items, it will actually hide it. That way, you get to focus on the content most relevant to you. Let's now move down to some of the state-related charts. These charts just give you a quick overview of what's happening in individual states. The chart on the left over here shows the overall year-on-year growth in different states. I'll just hide a few of these legend items so it's a bit easier to see. And it looks like if I compare Victoria and New South Wales, they seem to follow a very similar trend. Now, during the pandemic, it was quite interesting for us to keep an eye on this chart because as we saw different states take different approaches to deal with the pandemic, we saw its impact on spending and as a consequence, the impact it had on the economy. And that's how we were able to track how different states were recovering from the pandemic differently. The chart on the right is a heat map, which gives us a quick snapshot of what's the industry growth like in each of the states. So here, the lighter the color, the higher the growth. So for example, you can see that travel spend in WA is up. And for our friends in Victoria, food and drink spend is down about 4%. Internally in the team, this is a chart we keep an eye on a lot because it acts as a springboard for other analyses and to validate other hypotheses on the state page, which I'll show you in a minute. The last chart on this page is e-commerce and in-store spend. So as we were coming out of the pandemic, one of the biggest requests we got from our customers was everyone inherently knew that there is a shift in consumer behavior towards online spend. That's what all of us were experiencing. But it was very hard to quantify it or see which industries had a longer lasting shift than others. And that's where this chart helps you see the year-on-year growth in in-store spend and e-commerce. Using this chart, we were actually able to see how in certain industries, even after the pandemic was in the rearview mirror, we could see how consumers still preferred shopping online. Now, all of the information I've shown you so far is just spending at a national level and a bit of summaries on the state. But if you're interested, you can actually jump into very specific industries. So using the selector, let's click on shopping. And under the shopping category, there's a few here. Let's click on furniture. So now all of the charts that we've just seen have updated to show spending in furniture. Now, if you're going through this and you see one of the charts is interesting and you'd want to be able to combine it with, let's say, your own sales data, then you can just click on this little icon here on any of the charts. And what it'll do is it'll take all the data on this chart and convert it to a CSV and download it for you. That way you can load it up into Excel or any of your favorite tools and then combine it with your own data. So let's jump into a little bit more detail and look into a specific region. Let's say you're a retailer who has stores across New South Wales and Victoria, and you've noticed that for some reason your stores in Victoria aren't performing as well as the stores in New South Wales. This could be because of a lot of different factors. Could be because of something specific to how those stores work, or you could also just be impacted by a regional trend. So to explore that, let's look at Victoria by changing the location selector. And I see a very similar page. The first chart is the state pulse, which is what we just saw for the national page just for Victoria. We see a very similar trend as what the national spend was like. The same peaks for Black Friday and Christmas, although it looks like the Black Friday peak is a bit higher in Victoria. If I scroll down a little bit, you'll be able to see how different industries have been performing in Victoria over the last couple of weeks. You probably noticed this little increase in spend in entertainment here. If you look at those dates actually align really well with school holidays in Victoria and some other events like the footy finals and even the Melbourne show being back in town. If I enable groceries here, you can see the groceries line, the growth has actually been higher than what entertainment had. There's a bit of variation, but it peaks at about in the week leading up to Christmas. Now, if you, like me, were one of the people who put off your Christmas shopping till the very end and you went to one of the grocery stores for all of your Christmas meal prep the day before Christmas, then I'm sure you can attest to how busy it was. And it's really interesting to see how that translates into the spend over here. Before I move on to the next chart, the last industry I'll show is shopping. Because when I click on it, you instantly see how the graph has to realign. There's a huge spike here in shopping when it comes in around the Black Friday weekend. So you can see that in Victoria, overall, the impact of Black Friday was really high and a lot higher than what the national average was. But what if we wanted to dig in even deeper? What if we wanted more insights in specific regions in Victoria? So the app allows you to look at data at an SA3 level. SA3 is statistical area 3. It's essentially a grouping of multiple postcodes. It's defined by the Australian Bureau of Statistics, and it's a mechanism to group regional data together. Usually multiple postcodes together combine to make a single SA3 region. So what you see here is a heat map of the SA3 regions in Victoria with the color indicating the year-on-year growth. So the darker the color, the higher the growth. You also see a quick breakdown of what's the change in different industries when I compare the last 26 weeks this year versus the baseline year we selected previously. If, let's say, you've got a concentration of stores in a specific SA3 region, you can actually even click on them to get insights specific to that region. So it looks like for Wellington, the overall growth was about 31%. That's mostly been driven by increased spending in travel and groceries. Once you've clicked on a region, if you want to go back and continue looking at the overall Victorian data, you can just hit this reset button here. Now, the interesting thing about Economic Pulse is you also get to see the top and the bottom SA3 regions on the right over here. Now, if you want, you can look at this data either at year-on-year growth perspective, or you can click on this toggle over here, and you can look at this from an absolute growth perspective. So it looks like the Macedon ranges have seen the highest proportional growth of about 63%, which equates to about 16 million additional spending. Now, I've gone through a lot of different charts in a very small amount of time. So what do you do if you're not sure, or if you forgot what a chart does? Well, there's a few things. You can hover on this little info icon over here. This should tell you a bit about what the chart shows, how do you read the chart, some kinds of insights you can get from the chart, and if data is missing, it even tells you why that could be the case. Now, that's all I had for the demo today. If you want more help, or if you want more details on this, you can click on this help icon over here. And over here, you can just search for Economic Pulse. So it'll give you a bit more information and some FAQs. We'll also, as Louise mentioned, we'll also have a recording of this webinar available on the ANZ help page. You can find that by just going on this help page, look for webinar series, there we go. And you'll be able to see the recordings and some additional information that's published here. This is the last recording we have, the last webinar we have in this series, but we are planning additional series. So if you like this one, look out for more information on this on the ANZ help page. We'll also be sending you out a survey. So if you're interested, please give us some feedback. That'll help us improve and tweak what we're adding in the webinars. And lastly, thank you so much for taking our time for this session. I hope you found it useful, and I hope you learned something new today. Thanks.